Hello, good day again, my dear students. So this is the chapter 5 of our lecture. So today we're going to discuss about the Spanish era in the Philippines. So I want to share with you my PowerPoint presentation. So this is it. Okay, let's start with this one. PowerPoint detectors graphics may not be configured properly. Okay. So, mm, kumapala ko yung video ko. Yan. Okay. So that you can see me clearly. Okay. Spanish era in the Philippines. So, what is galleon? During the time of Spanish era, this galleon trade became popular. So, what is galleon trade? So, Galleon trade, it was the trade monopolized by the Spanish government from 1565 to 1815, using the galleon ship with a route of Acapulco, Mexico to Manila, Philippines. All traders, especially the Chinese who would like to engage business to any Spanish colony, needed to use the galleon ship for transportation of their goods. In Spain, they also called it La Nao de la China. Most of the cargoes were from China through Manila. They would not all allow traders to go in if they would not use their galleons. The Spanish took taxes from the goods. At the same time, the transport fee for the galleon ship. So this trading lasted for almost 250 years. How about establishment of the Spanish government in the Philippines? Okay, for 333 years, now from 1521 to 1898, the Philippines were under Spain. Manila became their center of government, where the Spanish Governor General was residing. It was called Intramuros, or the walled city, as the seat of their government. Spanish built the said wall in the late 16th century as the protection of the city from other invasion. The form of government they introduced to the early Filipino was called encomienda system. So the word encomienda came from the word encomendar, which means to entrust. Okay. So, encomenderos were required. The ruler of this encomienda is what we call encomendero. Okay. So this system of government was formulated by Spain to control the natives' behavior of their uh, colony. The persons who implemented the encomienda were called encomenderos. They were also known as adelantado. The title of Delentados was for the Spanish noblemen that served the king during the 15th, 16th, and 17th century. This gave them the right to rule in regions as governors and justices. Okay, so how about duties of a comendero? So what are the duties of comendero? The following are the duties of the comendero. Encomendero was required by law to perform the following duties. Number one, to give protection to the natives. Number two, to help the missionaries convert the natives to Christianity. And number three is to promote education. So encomenderos were given right. By the way, encomenderos were given rights by the king to rule them and manage their respective areas of responsibilities, like in the Philippines. But this system of Spain in governing the colony gave native impressions and results to the king because most of the encomenderos abused the natives in the colony not only by imposing high taxes, but they also confiscate personal things like jewelries, animals, crops, if these natives could not pay their taxes. Okay? So, um, The next is about the Spanish Spain policies in the colony. When the Philippines archipelago became official colony of Spain, they introduced some policies to control the people. We have number one, we have reduction. Okay. When we say reduction, this policy was formulated by in the Caribbean island in 1503. They built a pueblo or a town and forcibly obliged everyone and families to move in the town they created. They once they were confined inside the pueblo or town, Spanish authorities built their outposts encircling the town for them to monitor all movement because their number were just around 700 to 1,000 during their early years in the Philippines. And they were sending additional 100 to 150 reinforcement every year. So the typical physical structure of an early pueblo was a public park, or they called it a plaza. So like this one, physical structure of the early pueblo. We have a public plaza. So public plaza is the center. Um, then uh, around it were the church, municipal hall, or munisipyo, or pamilihang bayan, and paradahan. So, or parking for karomata, o a carriage pulled by horses, or yung mga tinatawag natin mga tawag dito, yung mga karawahe, okay? So, that is the physical structure of an early pueblo. Okay, this is policy called reduction. So the second policy the Spanish introduced was repartamiento. When we talk about repartamiento, it was a system of a forced labor to the natives of the colony. It gives similar to polo y servicio or tribute or tributo or tribute. So the natives were obliged to provide the basic needs of Spaniards. Okay? When we talk about polo y servicio, okay, when we talk about polo y serbisyo, huh? Polo y serbisyo, it was required forced labor to all Filipino men aging 18 to 60 years old and must complete a 40 days work. They were assigned in various locations. Actually, they assigned in various locations of work like a shipyard for the galleon ships, construction of churches, roads and bridges, or the forest to cut trees for logs. They call the workers as polistas. Okay? If they were absent within the duration of tribute or tributo, okay? When we say tribute or tributo, early Filipino were compelled to pay taxes for the king. Um, the system was based on the recopilación del Reyes de los Reinos de las Indias, okay, which means the King Spain funded the expedition for the Philippines, and in return of his effort and gratitude, so the Filipinos will pay. Okay, how about instruction? Okay. When we say instruction, um, priors convince Filipino to embrace Catholicism as their religion. And after they were immediately baptized, they would be given a Spanish name. So the early education of Filipino during Spanish period was through religion. It was primarily exclusive for elite Filipinos to go to a formal schools operated by priors from different congregation in the first year of their operation. So the Doctrina Christiana, okay, was the first book that has been published in the Philippines and used in school. So what are those six Catholic congregations went here in the Philippines? They were Augustinians. So Augustinians, they entered the Philippines together with Miguel Lopez de Legazpi in the year 1565. So they were Fray Andres de Urdaneta, Martin de Rada, Fray Diego de Herrera, Fray um, Andres de Aguirre, Lorenzo Jimenez, and Fray Pedro de Gamboa. So the next one, the next congregation was the Franciscans. So this is the second religious order to come in the Philippines. They were 15 Franciscans who arrived in the archipelago in 1578. How about Jesuit? Okay, the first Jesuit in the Philippines were from the province of Mexico or Mexico. They arrived in 1581. They were headed by Father Antonio Sedeno, and his companions were Father Alonso Sanchez, Nicolas Gallardo, and Gaspar Suarez de Toledo, but died during their voyage. So the fourth congregation were the Dominicans. So the first Dominicans friars who arrived in the Philippines was in the year 1587. So the next or the fifth congregation was the Recollects. So in the year 1606, 13 Recollects arrived in Cebu, but one of them died at sea. But they went to Manila and established their church in the Bagong Bayan area, now Rizal Park. But it was demolished twice. First was 1642 when the Governor General perceived that it was a threat to Intramuros, where the Palacio del Gobernador is located. Second one was during the British invasion in 1762. So the last or the sixth and the last congregation who came here in the Philippines were the Benedictines. So on September 12, 1895, the Order of Benedictine arrived in the Philippines. So they started their missionary work in Surigao in 1896. So Reverend Father Jose Diaz Ivillar founded the Benedictine community in Mindanao. So Spanish government structure in the Philippines. Okay. So structure uh, during in the Philippines during the Spanish era. So um, I will show you everything first so that we can identify how the government or looks like or the structure of the governments looks like during the Spanish era. Okay. So when the Spain invaded the Philippine archipelago and controlled it for 333 years, many changes took place in the life of our early Filipinos. So the semi-monarchical type of living and society were abolished, and they introduced their own government structure. Um, that was the time when the Filipinos lost their freedom and independence. So to reign the country, they established a centralized form of government. So when we say centralized, no, lahat ng all the process of the as uh, and the process and service was centralized in a particular country. That is a form ng tinatawag natin centralized form of government. So, in terms of national government, okay, Spain established a central government that was located in Intramuros, Manila, wherein the King of Spain was the central ruler. The king designated their alter ego, so the Viceroy of Mexico, which was also under Spain, its function is to supervise all the colony of Spain with his Council of Indies. So, so, so who is the representative of governor of the King of Spain here in the Philippines? So that were the Governor General. So in 1821, Mexico regained its independence over Spain. All remaining colonies went directly under Spain. Okay, and the king immediately sent its governor general to govern every colony. So, um, what is the role? Okay, what is the role of governor general during the Spanish era? Okay, what will be the role? of Spanish Governor General in the Philippines. So governors or governor general is the highest ranking official in the colony, appointed by the King of Spain. So they also serve as the king alter ego, and from 1565, actually from 1565 to 1898, there were 115 Spanish governor generals assigned in the Philippines, wherein Miguel Lopez de Legazpi is the first, and the and Diego de los Reyes was the last. Okay, just remember these names. Miguel Lopez de Legazpi was the first governor general, and the last governor general was Diego de los Reyes. So um, we have different well-known governor generals also during the Spanish era. We have the Carlos Maria de la Torre, known as the Liberated Governor General. Just remember this name. Excuse me. Just remember these names. And we have Rafael Izquierdo, known as the Iron Hand. Okay, in the next chapter we will discuss why Governor General De La Torre known as the Liberated Governor General. How about Izquierdo became Iron Hand Governor General? So the next we have Jose Basco, or known as the economic-minded Governor General also. Okay. How about residensya? Okay. What is residensya? Okay. Residensya actually special judicial court whose mandate was to investigate the performance of a governor during the term and before he would be replaced in the position. So the report of the investigation would be directly submitted to the King of Spain. Okay. How about the bisita? Okay. When we say bisita, headed by Visitador General from the Council of Indies in Spain, actually, it's like they have the same function actually ni residensya. Ang pinagkaiba lang is that this bisita uh, came from the head of this visita is what we call visitador, okay, wherein visitador general from the Council of Indies in Spain who would conduct surprise visit, okay, to any from among the colonies of Spain to personally observe the condition in the colony under the leadership of Governor General. Its report will also be submitted directly to the King of Spain. So they have the same, di ba, residensya, they need to investigate kung ano na yung nagagawa ni King of Spain. How about yung surprise visit, surprise investigation or visitations, what we call visita. Okay. How about royal audiencia? When we talk about royal audiencia, uh, um, royal audiencia is the highest court of justice in the colony. It was an institution that helped the governor general in governing the colony by securing the people from the abusive Spanish officials. So the governor general was the ruling president with three justices, a prosecutor, and the other officials. So the royal audiencia can also exercise limited executive power if the governor general was absent or incapacitated, okay, to act in his office. So it also served as an advisory body um, for the governor general and supporting government decisions and plans. Okay. How about alcaldes, okay, or known as the provincial government? Alcaldes, it was headed by alcalde mayor. Okay. It was headed by alcalde mayor. The position was exclusive only for Spanish and mestizos. They were receiving salaries and a privilege in controlling the flow of business. Okay. Um, in his area of responsibility called Indulto de Comercio. So they implemented laws and supervised the tax collection in their province. So we have number next, we have corregimientos or the uncontrolled provinces. Okay, so what is the difference between um, between the alcaldes and corregimientos. Actually, they are both provinces. Ang pinagkaiba lang nila, the alcalde were known as the pacified provinces. Okay? Unpacified or uncontrolled provinces ang tawag naman sa mga corregimientos na mga ang tawag sa mga probinsyang uncontrolled or unpacified is what we call the corregimientos. Okay? So, um, corregimientos headed by as designated um, army officers by the governor general. So the province they held was not yet totally under their governance. There were resistance from some um, Filipinos. Okay, how about ayuntamiento? This is known as the city government. Okay, when we say ayuntamiento, it was headed by an alcalde, of course. It was a former town, but when it became the center of trade and commerce, it turned into a city. It has a city council composed of the following, headed by the alcalde, councilors or regidores, and the aquasil mayor or chief of police, and the escribando or secretary. So how about municipal or Pueblo de Indios, okay? So the leader was called Gobernador Silio, okay? The highest political position that Filipino can have during that time. Um, um, uh, to become a candidate for Governor de Silio, they must be a cabeza de barangay, and among the cabezas, they will elect top three to be part of the list that will be submitted to the Governor General or to the Alcalde Mayor. And from three, um, in the list, they will choose one to become the governor silio. So every alcaldes of provinces were divided into pueblos or towns, and they were not receiving salary, but they are exempt from paying taxes and excused from rendering polo with their immediate family member plus, okay, their social status as member of Principalia. So they focus on tax collection and the peace and order within their pueblo. So how about the others? No, actually, when we have the what we call cabeza de barangay, no, pinakamaliit na yung pinakamababa. When we say cabeza de barangay, they are the leaders or the uh, leaders of uh, what do you call this? Every barangay. Okay. So Spain promulgated an educational decree for reforming the educational system in the Philippines. So during the early Spanish, actually, during the Spanish occupation, education for the Filipino people centered on religion and primarily in for the elite, especially in the first years of Spanish colonization. So prior to that, early Philippines taught their children at home, focusing more on vocational skills than academics. So there were also tribal tutors, but there was no structured educational system at all. So the enactment of the Educational Decree 1865 liberalized access to education, which provided for the establishment of at least one primary school for boys and girls in each town under the responsibility of the municipal government. So there were three grades, no? Entrata, Ascenso, and Termino. Okay, we have three grades again. We have Entrada, we have Ascenso, and we have what do you call this? Um, Termino. So the curriculum required by the study of Christian doctrines, values, and history, as well as reading and writing in Spanish, mathematics, agriculture, etiquette, singing, what else? World geography and Spanish history. Girls were also taught sewing, okay, or pananhi. So the educational decree also provided for a normal school run by the Jesuits to educate male teachers in Manila. So normal schools for women teachers were not established until 1875 in Nueva Caceres, or the Philippine News Agency, uh, or yung Nueva Caceres was located in the Naga province of Ilocos, Camarines Sur. Okay. How about the invasion attempt during the Spanish time in the Philippines? So, during the time, the Spanish era, hindi siya nakaligtas. The Philippines ay hindi nakaligtas in the different attempts, no, ng invasion from different invaders or foreigners. Okay. So, who are those foreigners who try to invade the Philippines? Okay. Um, the Chinese, first is the Chinese invasion through Limahong. Okay, you know Limahong, lumabas siya sa mga movie like Chinese on Chinese invasion through Limahong, or the Chinese pirate. So on November 29, 1574, Limahong attacked Manila, where he killed Martin de Goiti, the founder of the city of Manila. Goiti also joined Miguel Lopez de Legazpi and Juan de Salcedo in their conquest in the Philippines in 1565. So Limahong also tried to attack Parañaque, but he was stopped by Don Gallo, and with the help of Juan de Salcedo, Limahong was defeated and he retreated to Pangasinan. So the next invasion attempt was the Dutch invasion on 1646. So it's a series of naval battles happening in the Philippine waters between the Spanish fleet and the Dutch naval squadron. So that attack that and tried to invade the Philippines. So Spanish and some Filipinos attributed the victory over the Dutch um, to the Our Lady of La Naval de Manila on April 9, 1652. The event was called the Battle of La Naval de Manila. So the Our Lady of La Naval is now the patron saint of our Philippine Navy. Just remember that. Okay. What else? We have the British invasion. Okay. In history, there was the what they called it the 7 Years' War. So between England and France. So the King of Spain, King Charles II, felt threatened when France nearly lost the said war against England. So on June 4, 1762, England, or Great Britain, declares wars against Spain. So immediately after, Spain also made their declaration of war against Britain on January 8. Okay. So of the same year, the King of Spain and France made uh, truce in fighting their rival Britain. So they called it the Family Compact, which was signed on August 15, 1761. So on September 24, 1762, a British sailed into Manila Bay from Madras, and the expedition was led by Brigadier General William Draper and Rear Admiral Samuel Cornish. Okay, and they captured Manila. And the Philippines was under British for 20 months, with between 1762 to 1764. So on February 10, 1763, a peace talk occurred between three, the Spain, France, and Great Britain, and signed a peace agreement ending the war. So after Manila was properly turned over again to Spain, the British forces embarked Manila and Cavite area on the first week of uh, April on 1764. So I did not include that. Then another invaders we have the Portuguese, no. So Portugal tried also to invade the Philippines because of Spain violated of the treaty when Spain colonized the Philippines, because it was supposedly a Portuguese territory according to the Papal Bull Inter Terra. Okay, Spain will sail westward and Portugal will go eastward, as we remember last time that I discussed. No, Philippine location is in the southeast of Asia according to the Papal Bull of all discoveries in the east must be turned over to Portugal. All discoveries in the west must be turned over to Spain. But Spain did not turn over the Philippines to Portugal, but instead they colonized it. So that is uh, um, the short lecture of this chapter 5. So if you have some question, so just feel free to ask me during our um, um, tawag ko, um, consultation meeting or conference via Google Meet. And please answer, do not forget to answer your modules. Okay, bye-bye. See you again for the next video.